Welcome to Traditional Clothing of the Arab World. Today, Oraib Khalife and myself, Patricia Auk, are presenting the traditional clothing that you'll find throughout the Arab world.
أهلاً وسهلاً بكم في عرض الأزياء التراثي للبلاد العربية. أنا عريب خليفة ومعي باتريشا أوك نرحب بكم في المهرجان العربي لمدينة سياتل لعام 2021. The Arab countries are 22 countries stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Arabian Sea. Geography from the seaside to mountainside to desert varies a lot between countries and in each country by itself. We will have urban and rural differences between in the clothing, and we will be presenting about ethnic groups such as Kurdish, Amazigh, and Nubians. So now from geography, we will go immediately to the traditional clothing, and we will start with the basic characteristics of every Middle Eastern or Arabic traditional dress. As you will notice, in every country, there are certain basic pieces of the outfit that is worn across the countries. There is the head cover, there's the kaftan, there's the sirwal or shirwal or the pantaloons. The main idea behind these basic pieces of the outfit is modesty and to hide the shape of the body. As you would see, loose clothing would provide ventilation and retain moisture in desert areas. Layering of pieces provides insulation from heat and cold. Covering the skin is a very important aspect in these outfits as it protects from the sun and the sand in some areas, as well as the cold. Later on, we will be talking about embellishments. The first piece of clothing we will talk about is the kaftan, which is a square-shaped item that a man or a woman would wear as a first layer or a second layer. The kaftan is either closed from the front or open from the sides, or sometimes it's wrapped around. This first article of clothing is next to the skin, which means it doesn't show to the outer person. It is one piece of the layers that a man or woman is wearing. The second article of clothing is the pantaloons, or as we say it in Arabic, shirwal or sirwal. And this is, you can say it's like a pantalon or a long john or pair of trousers that is worn underneath the kaftan, the basic kaftan. And the whole idea is to cover the legs while allowing freedom of movement. You will see that some of these are less decorated, meaning that they are to be worn in the farm or as any worker would wear them, versus formal, which you would see a lot of decoration in the areas that it's going to show. These are worn as also a first layer of clothing. Now that we're done talking about the basic articles of the clothing, we will go into the decoration of the traditional dresses. Let's start by talking about the fabrics. And let's go back into history and talk about the Silk Route. Now remember, the Silk Route was coming all the way from China, all the way to Tyre and Sidon in Lebanon. And with it came the beautiful fabrics of the East. The most important one that came from China and India was silk, and silk was used in the traditional Arab clothes, together with the damask from Syria that went all the way to Egypt and to north of Africa. Also, muslin came from Al-Mosul, which is a city in Iraq. And of course, cotton came from Egypt. Everybody spun wool, so wool was everywhere, and it was used, of course, in the wintertime. So all these fabrics were used to embellish the traditional basic clothing that the women and men used all around the Middle East.
We're now going to talk about embellishment, and we're going to start here with silver droppings, where silver is dropped onto the fabric to create these beautiful designs. This was especially seen in the clothing in the region of the Sinai. A sut is a fabric that comes from Asut, Egypt, and it is a fine net fabric in which they embroider with pieces of silver. Now it's done with other metals, but it was, as you can see, woven in to create designs, and then the pattern were hammered in. So you had a net fabric, sometimes heavily filled with the metal, and other times quite open. This fabric was not produced for quite a long time, and due to high demand, it is begun to be produced again in the Arab world, in Asut and areas around. These are just some of the typical designs that would be embedded into the net with the metal to create the beautiful fabric.
And then we have the embroidery, which is done in a cross-stitch matter. And this is more of Palestine and the Levant area. These patterns are copied from nature. As you can see, there is the evergreen tree, there's the grain of wheat down there in the red, and my favorite that looks like an S, but it's actually a leash that people use to take the bad blood out of the body. There's also, the stars in the sky. And these patterns are usually passed by from great-grandmother to grandmother to daughter to granddaughter, and so on. This kind of embroidery usually happens in a communal way, where women are sitting down, relaxed with a cup of tea, talking about their daily life and stitching. So it's not just an artistic way of presenting the environment around us, but it is what I call cheap therapy, where women are talking to their daughters, talking to their aunts about their daily problems, laughing about it, singing about it. It's a beautiful communal way to get together. One more idea of embellishing clothes or dresses is the applique. And we will see this more in desert areas, where traders will bring in colorful fabrics. And the ladies of the desert are famous of having these wonderful applique pieces sewn into their dresses, just to add more color into the environment that they are in. Again, we will just keep on thinking of the trades and the Silk Roads, and you don't know where the trader is coming from, but definitely commerce has been something done through the years, all through history, and people will bring interesting things from other parts of the world. And women are always creative and artistic in a way to embellish their dresses.
Jewelry, very popular part of embellishing women's dress. You'll find it, not only do they wear jewelry, but also you will find some of it is actually sewn into headdresses or sewn into their their outerwear also. Traditionally, it was silver. Currently, gold is much more popular, but it also contained semi-precious stones, coral, turquoise, and amber. Amber was especially thought to be a protective element that was added to the jewelry.
One interesting piece of decoration, a dress, or a man's outfit is the amulets. Amulets are pieces that really doesn't make any sense for us now, but it meant a lot then. It could be a tooth of an animal. It could be a piece of Venetian bead that was found in the ground. It could be a piece of amber or any of the semi-precious stones. And these amulets started as protection from something, from the elements like sickness, or protection from the evil eye, or for wisdom or for memory. So it depends on the woman or the man who is wearing the amulet on what spiritual power he is looking for in this amulet. This has nothing to do with religion, it's only cultural. And more than cultural, it's very personal for every person that found something and wants to put it on his or her own dress. Other pieces of amulets are the pearl buttons, coins, beads. And remember, the Middle East, we always have to talk about geography and history. Every conqueror from anywhere in the world came to the Middle East, and they probably dropped something here or there, either coins or, as I said, Venetian beads, or a pearl button or something. So it's usually superstitious for the person who picks it up from the ground and wears it. And that's all about amulets. Let's talk about the head covers for men first and then women. The turban is a big part of the men's outfit in the Arab world. Why is the turban so distinctive and why is it so important? Well, first of all, it's the basic thing. It's a protection from the sun. But then everybody puts their own personal touch to it, and they fold it or tie it in a different way. So believe it or not, the way a person wraps his turban becomes his ID. So imagine somebody who is walking down the souk or the market, and a vendor somewhere sees him, he would know him by the turban, not by looking at his face. The other thing the turban does is it keeps your money, it keeps your jewelry, if you have any jewelry, but usually men don't wear jewelry. It tells a lot about the social status. And if you are short, the turban would add more to your stature, so you would look taller. In other parts of the Middle East, there's the kufiya. And the kufiya comes in two colors. The red one for, actually 3 colors. The red one for winter, the white and checkered with black for the Levant and especially for Palestine. And then there is the white one, which is very, very light, and it's worn in the Gulf area. Again, the kufiya is worn in different ways. If you are working in the field, it's tied to your head, and if you are going somewhere, meeting friends, it's usually looser around the head. And that's about it for the men's. Let's not forget about the black wheel. It's a black circle that goes on top of the head the black, the white, and the checkered one. And this is only to hold the kufiya or the headdress close to the head. And as you can imagine, this is worn in formal settings rather than working in the field.
Head covers for women. A lot of variety exists here throughout the Arab world also, from the types of caps and wraps that the women wear on their heads to also in many areas where they have the head veils like you see here, often embroidered or sometimes even with jewelry. As you'll see with the one with the veil head cover, she's got jewelry that is attached to her cap. And you see also with the cap here from the Levant, you see the coins that are sewn on. In a lot of cases, or most cases, this was a way of a woman kind of wearing her bank account or her dowry jewelry. So it was always kept on her, and she did not have to worry about it. And it need to be for the family situation. She has can trade it in for money or for goods for her family.
Or maybe also paying for the dowry of her son or his education. So these are coins that are removable and usable. Everybody is curious about the burqa or the face covering. Well, let me simplify it for you. Let's call it a natural sunscreen. Well, these women live in the desert and they definitely need to protect their faces from the sun and the sand. I wouldn't say it's used more in cold places, but usually it's in hot places. And as you can see, it is decorated again with coins or silvers or pearls, depending where the woman is. It is, as we said, a protection from the elements and provides some kind of modesty. The modesty part is more cultural than religious. But again, let's call it sunscreen. And now we will go together to North Africa to see the dresses in North Africa, and Patricia will take us there.
Across a lot of the countries in North Africa, especially you'll see this in Tunisia, Libya, and Algeria, is a remnant of the Roman toga. And it's called the melia, and it's wrapped in a lot of different ways. You'll see it in some of the men's outerwear and also for the woman's outerwear. And so this is something that for the woman will cover her house dress when she's out in public. So it's really fascinating the different ways that this is used throughout these areas. First, let's look at Morocco. Now, we talked about traditional dress is also affected by you'll see variances in the different ethnic groups within a country. So here we have a Gedra woman whose hair is being beaded, and below her you see some ahidus, and the wrap that they are wearing is decorated right along the seam of the fabric, actually, and is used as their covering. You'll see a man's outer kaftan here. This is more urban wear. And also you see a man in blue who is part of the Tuareg tribe. And Tuaregs exist across North Africa here. One of the things that's interesting is traditionally, and being out in the desert, the Tuareg men do cover their face. It does protect them from the sand and weather. But the Tuareg women do not cover their face, which is very different than some of the other tribes, which the women cover and the men do not. So just some of the varied ethnic groups are Amazigh that exist in Morocco and some of their traditional wear. We're going now and look at Algeria. And again, you'll see It's actually called that Melia now becomes the hake for the women, which is the white garment that she's wearing outside there in the city. And it becomes a burnous for the men. So it's a cover that he wears, just slightly wraps it around. You see a brown one here that he's got. Also, the hake, if you go to the lower picture, you see a woman in lace, and that's a different way that the Melia has been wrapped. So in Algeria, again, we have very many different areas. The bride here looks like she's from wearing more of a Constantine type of outfit, and you'll notice the coat has the piping that is very reminiscent of the Ottoman Empire. So that's more of an urban area. You'll see that piping on velvet jackets in the women in the Constantine area. We also have the Kelbi, which is the bright orange stripe pattern, which is one of the Amazigh groups that you'll find in Algeria, and a few other groups that we can see how different the dress is. Fringe seems also in Algeria to be very popular to hang. The way they wrap their headscarves around is very popular to a lot of the Amazigh women in Algeria.
وشفت كتير وما شفتش زي حبيبي أنا مانيش رايدة مانيش رايدة مانيش رايدة إلا هو مانيش رايدة وما فيش فايدة وما فيش فايدة ما فيش فايدة إلا هو ما فيش فايدة وماليش فايدة وماليش رايدة وماليش رايدة إلا هو ماليش رايدة وما فيش فايدة وما فيش فايدة ما فيش فايدة إلا هو ما فيش فايدة في البعد عشقة في القرب عشقة في البعد عشقة في القرب عشقة زي العسل على قلبي هوا زي العسل على قلبي زي العسل على قلبي هواه، 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 زي العسل.
اسمي مرهف الأشقر من سوريا، من مدينة الرستن، طبيب بسياتل وأستاذ في جامعة واشنطن. الأغنية الأولى صرخة ثائر إلى صديقي محمد عرب في سجون النظام السوري. هو ذا صوتي من الأرض السمراء آتٍ، من جبل الأطياب آتٍ، من حقلي، من شمسي، من آلام شعبي آتٍ. طلق صوتي الأنين، طلق قلبي الحنين، وجئت الطلق وجئت الصفع لكل ضمير خادر. تركت النجمة، تركت الآه، تركت النغم الحائر، وجئت أعصف ما في صدري، جئت صرخة ثائر.
لا 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 لا. هو ده صوتي من الأرض السمراء آتٍ آتٍ آتٍ، من جبل الأطياب آتٍ، من حقلي، من شمسي، من حقلي، من شمسي، من آلام شعبي آتٍ، من آلام شعبي آتٍ. لا 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 لا. طلق صوت الأنين، طلق قلبي الحنين، طلق صوت الأنين، طلق قلبي الحنين، وجئت طلق وجئت صفع لكل ضمير خادر، وجئت طلق وجئت صفع لكل ضمير خادر. تركت النجم، تركت الآه، تركت النغم الحائر، تركت النجم، تركت الآه، تركت النغم الحائر، وجئت أعصف ما في صدري، جئت صرخة ثائر، وجئت أعصف ما في صدري، جئت صرخة ثائر، وجئت صرخة ثائر. لا 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 لا. هو ده صوتي من الأرض السمراء آتٍ آتٍ آتٍ، من جبل الأطياب آتٍ، من حقلي، من شمسي، من حقلي، من شمسي، من آلام شعبي آتٍ، من آلام شعبي آتٍ. إني اخترتك يا وطني حبا وطواعيا، إني اخترتك يا وطني سرا وعلانية، إني اخترتك يا وطني فليتنكر لي زمني، إني اخترتك يا وطني فليتنكر لي زمني، ما دمت ستذكرني يا وطني الرائع، يا وطني 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 دائم الخضرة يا قلبي، وإن بان بعيني الأسى، وإن بان بعيني الأسى دائم الثورة يا قلبي، وإن صارت صبحاتي مسا، وإن صارت صبحاتي مسا دائم الخضرة يا قلبي، وإن بان بعيني الأسى، إن بان بعيني الأسى دائم الثورة يا قلبي، وإن صارت صبحاتي مسا، وإن صارت صبحاتي مسا جئت في زمن الجزر، جئت في عز التعب، جئت في زمن الجزر، جئت في عز التعب رشاش عنف وغضب 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 وغضب، إني اخترتك يا وطني حبا وطواعيا، إني اخترتك يا وطني سرا وعلانية، إني اخترتك يا وطني فليتنكر لي زمني، إني اخترتك يا وطني فليتنكر لي زمني، ما دمت ستذكرني يا وطني الرائع، يا وطني يا وطني الرائع، يا وطني يا وطني الرائع، يا وطني يا وطني الرائع، يا وطني. شدوا الهم الهم قوي، مركب ينده عالبحر يا بحري، هيلا 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 هيلا. شدوا الهم الهم قوي، جرح بينده للحرية يا بحري، هيلا 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 هيلا. خلف القلعة قلعة نحنا، ساحات الدنيا مطرحنا يا بحري، هيلا 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 هيلا. يا ريس ريس هالمينا، معروف القلعة جاينا يا بحري، هيلا 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 هيلا. Hela, 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 hela.
One afternoon, Ali Baba was hard at work chopping a tree on a new hill when he heard a large number of horses approaching at full gallop. They seemed to be coming straight towards him. Hurriedly, he climbed up a tall tree to see what it was. Surrounded by a cloud of dust was a band of 40 men. Their faces were burned dark by the sun, their eyes glittered like bright copper coins, and they each had a beard shaped like a falcon swooping on its prey. Certainly, they were no ordinary travelers.
They must be a band of desert thieves.
Ali Baba tried to hide himself amongst the leaves and fretted that his donkey would bray. At the foot of his hill, the riders all dismounted, slung very heavy-looking sacks over their shoulders, and walked up to an immense rock. Their leader turned to face the rock and yelled in a loud, gruff voice,
Open sesame!
And what do you suppose happened? Right in front of him, the sheer face of the rock began to smoothly and silently divide into two openings just wide enough for a person to pass through. The robbers disappeared one by one into the opening, and quickly re-emerged empty-handed. They'd left their loot inside. Once again, the leader turned and gravely commanded,
Close sesame.
As if waiting for the sound, the rock entrance began to close up until no sign of it remained.
I wonder if I've been dreaming. Or perhaps it was all a mirage?
Ali Baba sat there for a long while, gathering his wits. Then, making sure that the robbers had all ridden away, he carefully climbed down from his tree and stood in front of the rock. In a timid, quavering voice, he called,
Open sesame.
These were indeed the magical words. Effortlessly, the rock reopened, and Ali Baba saw that inside there was a large cavern with a high vaulted roof. Chests of all sizes crammed with gold coins were piled high. Intricately worked gold and silver ornaments littered the floor, and the sparkle of many jewels seemed to light up the darkness. Ali Baba sank to his knees, raised his arms, and prayed,
I give thanks, O Creator of heaven and earth, for bestowing on your servant this treasure the robbers have built up over many years.
Afterwards, he took just a small part of the hoard, 5 or 6 bags of gold, and loaded them onto his donkey. He concealed them again amongst the firewood and cautiously went back home.
Now Ali Baba's wife was herself the daughter of a woodcutter. When Ali Baba took out a handful to show her, she cried out,
Thief! Villain! Whatever have you done? Haven't you always said it was better for us to starve than to steal from others? They'll hang you now, that's for sure.
Ali Baba told her all that had happened that day. Then, he sent her to his brother Qasim's house nearby to borrow some scales. Qasim listened suspiciously when his wife told him about his sister-in-law's request.
What? Lend him my scales when he can barely afford to feed for his donkey?
When the scales were brought back, imagine their surprise when they found a gold coin stuck in the bottom of the bag. Qasim immediately hurried off to his brother's house.
You miserable thief! Where did you steal this from? If you don't tell me right away, I'll turn you to the authorities myself. Quiet down, Qasim. I've discovered some magic words that open up a cache of treasure. Here, take half of these gold coins. Where are the rest hidden? And what are the magic words?
Ali Baba told him the story about the robbers and their secret cave. Qasim set out for the robbers' cave at dawn with his team of donkeys.
Open sesame.
And just as Ali Baba said, the large stone opened up to reveal the robbers' secret cave. Qasim was overcome by greed and desire and not wanting to share this treasure.
Look at all the gold, the silks and expensive goods, but what if somebody comes along and sees me? I better shut the cave.
So Qasim bellowed,
Close sesame.
Silently, the stone moved back in place. Wildly, Qasim ran around poking into everything and gathering together more than he could possibly take away with him. But when he was ready to leave, suddenly the magic words would not come to him.
Open wheat. No, that's wrong. Open barley. That's not it either. Open millet. Open peas. Open rice.
He tried other words, one after the other, as they occurred to him, but the rock wouldn't budge. He had become really frantic when unexpectedly it opened and the band of robbers burst in. Kasim cowered in front of the men with their swords drawn.
Kasim's my name. I'm not here to steal any of your hard-won treasure, you know? It's just that I was asked to.
Who asked you?
My brother, Ali Baba. That's how I know the magic words.
After learning about Ali Baba, the angry robbers killed Kasim and their leader sent a few of his men off to town to locate the house where Ali Baba lived. Once they finally found it, one of them put a chalk mark on the door and they returned to report.
Now, in Ali Baba's household, there was a young girl named Morgiana who helped in the kitchen. When she was a small orphan child, Ali Baba and his wife had taken her in and adopted her. Not only was she known for her kind-heartedness, but also her keen wit was reflected in her deep and sparkling jet-black eyes. This Morgiana was the one to notice the white mark when she got back from the market.
Somehow this seems a bad omen. It's probably the work of some evildoer that wishes us harm,
she whispered to herself, and set about making exactly the same mark on every other door in the street.
That night, the whole band of 40 robbers swept into the street, but since they couldn't find the right house, they swirled around like a black whirlwind before raging back to camp. There, the furious chief cruelly ended them with his broadsword, the pair who had misled them. This time, he himself went to locate Ali Baba's house, then carefully he made his plans. First, he had 38 large clay jars bought, and one of them filled with olive oil. Next, he had his men hide themselves one by one in the other 37, and all of the jars covered with sacking. This was so there would be no danger of them suffocating. Finally, the jars were loaded 2 at a time onto horses, and with himself posing as an oil merchant, the robber chief set out on foot, leading the train. As they arrived at the house, the sun was setting, and the chief addressed Ali Baba coming from his prayers.
Master, I'm a stranger in your town with nowhere to stay. I beg lodging of you for the night,
said the disguised thief. Good-heartedly, Ali Baba replied,
Welcome in the name of Allah. Come, lead your horses into the yard, then eat and drink your fill before resting yourself from your journey.
When he had been shown in, the long Arabian-style feast began. Morgiana, meanwhile, was busy preparing the food and washing dishes in the kitchen. All at once, her lamp started to flicker as the oil in it got low.
What'll I do? That's all we had left.
Then she remembered that their visitor that night was an oil merchant.
Ah, that's right. I'll just borrow a bit from one of his jars and return it tomorrow morning.
Morgiana took the empty oil jug to the courtyard and was about to uncover one of the large vessels standing there when, to her amazement, a man spoke from inside it.
Chief, is it time now?
The young girl was terrified, but quick-wittedly answered in a deep voice.
No, not yet.
Fortunately, there was only a thin crescent moon that night. Where the jar stood beside a stone wall, it was pitch black. Silently, Morgiana went around to each jar and discovered that only one contained any oil. All the others had men hidden inside. After going back to the kitchen and lighting the lamp, she racked her brains thinking about what to do.
If I make a fuss, that assassin pretending to be a merchant will escape.
Silently, she carried all the oil into the kitchen and heated it in a huge pot until it boiled. Next, she put some into a bucket, carried it outside, then one after the other, poured the boiling oil into each of the big jars. The thieves all burned to death before they could even cry out.
Midnight came around, and at an opportune time, the bandit thief left the room and threw some stones out into the yard from a corridor window. But even though he heard them hit against the jars time after time, no one of his men emerged. Thinking it odd, he went out to investigate, and was amazed to find all 37 of his men dead. Though he was staggered, he decided there was nothing left now but to take revenge on Ali Baba's family himself. So he calmly went back to the feast. Ali Baba, of course, knew none of all this and continued to shower his guests with hospitality. Presently, a girl dressed in a glittering dancer's costume gracefully made her appearance. She bowed to the guests of honor and began to dance to the beat of a servant's drum. With her body upright and her chest out, slowly and rhythmically she advanced to the center of the room. Across her forehead was a band of gold coins, round her neck a necklace of amber, about her waist a sash of brightest scarlet, and the tiny bells fastened to her slender wrists and ankles tinkled continuously.
Yes, it was Morgiana. They all watched her beautiful gazelle-like movements. Gradually, the beat of the drum picked up speed as Morgiana danced to the left and right, swooping like a butterfly, then gliding like a bird. After a while, she paused momentarily and lightly removed the dagger in her sash. Now she began a sword dance, at times swaying gracefully back and forth with it, and at others waving it dangerously close to the audience. Her expression was as such as the princes of Ethiopia and the nobles of Greece had never seen. All watched, enchanted, as she danced up to the guest. The drum was beaten ever more wildly, and at the height of its fury, Morgiana fixed her burly black eyes piercingly on the merchant. Then, in a flash, she plunged her dagger up to the hilt into the thief's sturdy chest.
Morgiana, what have you done?
"Look, father!"
She said as she ripped off the oil merchant's disguise, unmasking the robber, and revealed the sword hidden in his clothing. Ali Baba took her hands into his and fell to praising her cleverness and courage.
From this day on, we will think of you as our guardian angel. All the riches in the cave are yours. Although your youth will gradually fade, your wisdom will continue to grow. Use it well, and you'll be the glory of all Arabia and respected in all the world.
Then they all sat down again to their own feast of celebrating and rejoicing.
Hello, my name is Serene, and as many of you know, I will be sharing a poem. Some people might want to know how I got into writing the poems. Well, since I was 6 years old, I wrote stories and wrote more and more as I grew. I started thinking about Palestine and what's been happening there lately. I wrote a couple poems describing my feelings about it, but today I will be sharing a poem about another issue. For the past couple years, my grandfather has struggled remembering things since he was diagnosed with early stages of amnesia, and I was worried that he won't remember the times we spent together, so I wrote this poem for him. I will be sharing a poem called Memories. As days become memories, try to be helpful. As days become memories, fight back. As days become memories, they disappear slowly into time, so cherish these memories while you can, for these memories are meant to be forgotten.
So, hi, Mohammed Sabani, right? That's how you pronounce your name?
In Arabic, Sabani.
For some reason, I continue to say it wrong.
Don't worry.
Sabani. Okay. So, hi, nice having you here today. And we've got a lot of people talk about what you've been doing with your stuff, political cartoons and stuff. And before we hit into that part, I would really like to know more about your background first. How did you get there? Like, what is your background and stuff, and then what happened?
Actually, if I want to talk about that, I should talk about my childhood, because I was born in Kuwait in 1979, and at that time, the great cartoonist Naji Al-Ali was publishing his cartoon in Al-Qabas, daily Kuwaiti newspaper. And my mother used to use his cartoon as a tool to tell us about Palestine and what's going on in Palestine at that time. And then after the first Gulf War, we moved from, as many Palestinian families, we moved from Kuwait to Jordan. I finished my high school in Jordan, and then I moved to Palestine to start my bachelor degree. At that time, there's nothing in my mind that I need to be a cartoonist. Just someone who has just finished his high school, and he wants to get into a good program, to get good work and good career. That's why I've decided to be an interior architect, and I've started in Al-Najah University as a student in that program, interior architect. And during that time, the second Intifada started in the year of 2000s. And on the first day of the second Intifada, two of my colleagues were killed by the Israeli soldier. Jihad Al-Alul and Zakaria Kilani were killed by the Israeli soldier. We were in protest against the Israeli soldier around Nablus. And that's what provoked a big question in my mind: what exactly I can do to talk about my people, about what's going on here in Palestine. That's what took me back to my childhood, to the Naji Al-Ali cartoon, and that's why when I have decided to be cartoonist. And that's when I started to do daily cartoon about the situation during the second Intifada. I was a student in Al-Najah University. I didn't have any chance to publish that works in daily newspaper, but I've conducted many exhibition about with my cartoon about the situation in Palestine. And then when I was graduated from Al-Najah University, and start work as a graphic designer in Arab American University. It's a private university in Palestine, and publishing my cartoon without any revenue in daily newspaper in Palestine. I keep publishing my cartoon for free in all of these daily newspapers, just because I want to be a cartoonist for more than 7 years, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I got a chance to be a daily cartoonist for Al Hayya Al Jadida. It is a Palestinian newspaper here, and then I get into many exhibition outside Palestine, in United States, the UK, out of countries, and then in the year of 2013, actually, I was arrested by the Israeli soldier, and during my trip from Jordan to Palestine, I was in Jordan for some works and for some meeting. And while
was it about your cartoon? That's why you were arrested?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that was because of my cartoon. And when they locked me in a small cell, you know, detention centers in here in what they call it Israel, it's very, very hard that they locked you in very harsh situation, without in a small cell, without windows, without any access to the rest of the world. You don't know exactly what's going on outside this cell, with a small dim light. I had nothing at that cell. That's why I've decided because they want to torture you by this situation. They want to siege
Stop you from what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and that's why I've decided, because I'm here and they want to siege me inside this small cell. I want something to think about it, and that's why I've decided that I need to pretend that I'm here as a cartoonist, as a journalist, I want to report and to talk about the situation inside that cell. And that's why I've spent all of my time inside that cell, just thinking about the situation for the Palestinian prisoners and what exactly I want to convey when I will be released from that cell, and what exactly I want to talk about the Palestinian prisoners. And then, yeah, they moved me from the detention center into the Al-Naqab prison, and there I've done a lot of cartoons about the Palestinian prisoner and smuggled them from the prison to the my friends outside the prison to be published in my newspaper. Yeah. From inside the prison, yeah. You know, when I was inside the prison, I used to draw the cartoon. For example, I want to draw a cartoon, a Palestinian prisoner inside the cell. I draw the Palestinian prisoner inside the cell, but without windows, with bar, without any indication that this is a cell. And when I was released from the prison, I have finished all of these artworks. And I've done my exhibition, and I called my exhibition cell number 28 because that's cell where I decided that I need to do this exhibition about the Palestinian prisoners.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I see. I mean, that's what I wanted to know, because of, you know, when you just know about that person draws something or paints or whatsoever without knowing the story, it's just like, oh wow, that's nice, or that's amazing. But when you tell me the story, that's really, really, really interesting. It's amazing. It's huge. So, how long did you stay in the prison? Or
just 6 months, but yeah, the situation was very hard inside the prison. You know, because you are an artist and you used to travel around the world, do your exhibition, meet friends, artists, and all of these people have all. Even in Palestine, we don't have all art equipment here inside Palestine, but inside the prison, we don't have anything, just the pencil, paper, very, very simple tools. That's why I have done a lot of art. And actually, I have published all of these cartoons in my first book, Palestine in White and Black. The last chapter in my book was talking about the Palestinian prisoner, and all of these artwork inside in my book about the Palestinian prisoners. I've done them inside the prison.
Where is that book? I want one.
My book was published in 2017 in the United States with Just What Book Publisher. And that book also was translated into the Catalan and Spanish language. Also, it was published in Spain and the UK also. And actually, I have done my second book about my life inside the prison.
That's really, really interesting. I really would like to get those information aside from the meeting, so we can have them all on the video. People can, sure. And definitely myself can get some.
Yeah, sure. I will send you all of these artworks.
Yeah. So, and it's very interesting that when you were in the prison, you thought about drawing, and I'm sure that they didn't even think about that, because otherwise they wouldn't have given you any pencil inside.
Yeah.
To document those moments. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. So tell me about that. Did you continue to be the interior architect, or you just switched?
Yeah, actually, as a cartoonist, I think I cannot rely on the cartooning to live from the revenue from the cartoon, and that's also will dominate your mind and your political situation, political opinion. If you want to criticize anyone, you will be dominated by the newspaper, and that's why I don't want to rely on that to live from the cartoon revenue. And that's why I think I should keep work as an interior architect. And I've just finished my master degree from Chevening scholarship from the UK. I finished my master degree in illustration, and I teach now in the same university, Arab American University. I teach the students some sketching for the interior architect program.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think when you just rely on one side and just you are a cartoonist, the newspaper will own you, will own your political, especially here in the Arab world. They will own you. And you know, the Qatari fund, the Saudi fund, and all of these regional parties, and that's why I don't need to be part from this this game. I want to be free when I want to talk about Palestine and our political situation.
Very true. I mean, you're talking about that they probably would impose their views on you, so you wouldn't be free to say what you want to say, right?
No, I don't think that anyone who just rely on the cartooning can be free with the mentality of our media here in the Arab world, and actually even in the world. You know, last years, that's the New York Times, which be considered as mainstream media, fired Antonio Antenas, one of the most important cartoonists around the world, just because he criticized Israel by one of his cartoons. And a lot of cartoonists from around the world, Vasco from Portuguese, even inside Israel, when you criticize Israel, you will be accused as anti-Semite or all of this accusation, and maybe you will lose your job even if you work with mainstream media. And the situation here in the Arab world, it's more difficult. If you criticize, for example, Saudi Arabia or Qatari, or you will lose your work, you lose your job. And that's why I don't think that I should rely in the cartooning. It's very, I think it's good to try and, or to keep working in one side as a cartoonist, that you will invest all of your time and your effort to improve your cartoon. But at the same time, you will lose your ability to criticize all of the political parties here in the world. Yeah.
Okay, do you think, I mean, I believe yes, but tell me about the link between you studying the interior architect and how this helped you draw?
You know, the interior architects or the architect also, it is part of from the art. It's art. And if you want to be an interior architect, you should have a good skill, how sketching, doing perspective, the architecture perspective and the human perspective, and you should understand exactly the relation between the human bodies and the space, the areas, the colors, and all of these components which part from our work as cartoonists. And that's what I think also, that's my undergrad program as interior architect improved my ability to be a cartoonist, and it is work together. If you want to be a good interior architect, you should have a good skill to do some sketching. And that's why also when I decided that I need to get master degree, I got my master degree in illustration. It is big part from the art. It's the comics, cartoon, even the architect or urban sketching. It's part from the illustration, and that's why I thought that it's very good to have my master degree in something else. It's not interior architect. It's not cartoon. It is something else.
That's interesting. So when you decided to go for the master, yeah, go ahead.
And now I have a very maybe crazy project, because I've just finished my second book, and it is comics. It's not cartoon, and it's about my story inside the prison, because I want to talk about the Palestinian prisoners, not the Palestinian prisoners inside the Israeli prison, the Palestinian prisoners inside and outside the prison, because I think all the Palestinian people, they are inside the prison, even the Palestinian in the diaspora, they are in prison with their nostalgia and with their missing for their country. I've done my second book with very difficult technique and very, very like strange technique. I have finished my second book with printmaking. It's relief printing. I carve each page and then print it as a relief printing. And that's how I did my second book. And then when I finished my second book, I decided that, okay, I got a good skill by this technique. I want to do a new project, and I will launch this project next month. It is online exhibition or gallery. I don't know exactly what I would call it, but it is for many artworks. Rely on that technique to maybe to bring some art for the people, or to to bring some cheap art for the people. If you want to like have some art from Mohammed Sabani, it's very cheap. It's just prints. And I will start my project with hanging all of this artwork in Ramallah streets.
Wow.
Because I do believe that all the people, the art should be affordable for all the people. If you want to own art, you should have this opportunity to have some art or to collect some art for Mohammed Sabani or another artist. That's why I've done this new project. And maybe I will start this project in next month with maybe in Ramallah streets. It's look like graffiti. It should be.
Wow. Oh, I'd really love to see that when it's there.
Yeah, I will send you some of these artwork. Yeah.
So if I ask you about your first piece of art that you've made, do you still have that?
Actually, that was while I was 6 years old. I won a competition in Kuwait. It was arranged by the Palestinian Liberation Organization in Kuwait. I was 6 years old. I won the first prize at that competition, and I just remember that competition because Ismail Shammout, one of the most important Palestinian artists, who gave me his book as a prize for that competition. But also I remember that artwork because I draw like olives of tree and the Jerusalem, the Al-Aqsa Mosque at that artwork, but I don't have it actually.
That would have been really, really great. Okay, what is the oldest thing that you have that is a piece of your art that you still have? Can you remember something?
I'm not sure that was the oldest one, but I have one of my artwork that I will send you that artwork because during the second Intifada I used to live in Nablus, and you know when the Israeli soldiers used to break into the Palestinian city like Nablus, Ramallah, and Jenin, all the people, they have to be at their homes. And because I was a student with my colleague at that home, all of my colleagues, they were just thinking about their expensive thing, like their mobile, their money. If the Israelis break into our home, where they will hide all of these expensive things. I was thinking just about my artworks because that's the only thing expensive that I have. And
that's big.
Yeah, I have some of these artworks. I still keep them. I don't, and I have another artworks that I have smuggled from the prison. I will show you all of these artworks.
I'd really love to have them and have people and myself see them. That would be great.
Sure.
Okay, so going back to saying maybe that what you're planning for next, like your next book, and then where do you see yourself maybe going in the next few years? About that part, like just think about your career and your life and stuff.
Actually, I don't have long-term plan for my life. For each stage, I want to just to think crazily what exactly I need to do. I need to do something new, and that's why I've done my last online exhibition, that's printmaking exhibition. I don't know exactly what my next stage. I was thinking maybe I will do my third book, comics book about our life, because my second book is it will be the first Palestinian comics from Palestine, because we don't have Palestinian artists, comics artists here in Palestine. Most of the Palestinian artists who have done some comics about Palestine, like Joe Sacco and Seth Tobokman, Ethan, Layla Abdelrazik, all of these artists from United States, but we have never done comics from Palestine about Palestine. And that's why I've done my first comics about Palestine. I'm not sure that I will do my second book, my second comics, but I think we should do that, because we should establish new art in Palestine as comics artists, because it's I've done my thesis in my master degree about the comics, and what I've noticed that it is very important comics for the foreign people around the world, that if they want to know exactly what's going on in Palestine, it's going to be a great tool for us as a Palestinian. But also, I think the printmaking technique and all this stuff, it is something my passion now. I don't know if I will continue with this artwork or not.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Well, I love that. I'm glad that we had this great talk, even if it's not. I think it's like we can spend hours talking about what you've done in your life. That's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm very old. Yeah.
No, I was just about to say at your very young age.
Thank you.
Yeah.